Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair. My name is Marcus Gray Hauk. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I serve as the Director of Music Ministries for this congregation. It's wonderful to see you all here, to be with you in this space and from wherever you're watching at home, because we are live streaming this service. And if you are in this space, we ask you two things. One is that you silence your cell phones and make sure you take them off the Wi-Fi, because our bandwidth could be affected by that, and we want people to have a good streaming experience without any disruptions. So put them in airplane mode if you can, or just turn it off. And the other thing is that if you're in the space, please refrain from singing, just hum along, sway, rock, dance. Any bodily movements are welcome to join our hymn leaders. Speaking of our hymn leaders, Dan Silver, Kate Conroy, why don't you come on up? And we have also Glenn Rombo on guitar, Reverend Scott on drums, and Mike Gilch on the piano. We're going to start with Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky.
Welcome.
three verses, by the way, were written by Reverend Scott.
Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever age, ability, history, identity, gender, or sexual orientation, you're welcome to bring your full self here. I'm Kira Pipkins. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Grounded in faith, we come together to nurture the soul, inspire hope, and bring into being a more just and loving world. Using the life and work of human rights hero Pauli Murray as a case study, today's service reminds us we make history together. It is too easy to forget that in every moment we make choices that compose the history of our lives, our families, and our communities. How do we assert our power with greater intention and make choices that further justice in our time? Joining us to offer pastoral support for our virtual service is Joel from our pastoral care team. Joel will introduce himself into the chat. For our in-person service, Judith is here and is in the back now, waving and wearing a gold stole. Please reach out to Judith for pastoral support and connection. Our COVID protocols include social distancing and that we be masked and, as possible, vaxxed. And we have restricted congregational singing, asking instead that we hum along while our hymn leaders sing. This week's Chancel Guild display was created by the UUCM Archives members Irene Sanderson, Becky Dodgett, Jane Gaertner, and Jerry Fried. The chalice pedestal, remembrance table, and chancel cloth were created by Arlene Marin, Mariette Rayner, and Becky Dodgett. Please see your This Week at UUCM bulletin for other important information. And now we welcome Beth Smith and Jen Bell from our Whole Lives program.
Good morning. I'm Beth Smith, she, her, hers. Our Whole Lives is a powerful ministry here, providing sexuality education that fosters informed, responsible, and values-based decisions about relationships, sexual health, and behavior. Back in the 70s, a sex education course was published by the Unitarian Universalist Association. By the 1980s, with the AIDS epidemic and sexual abuse scandals coming to light, the original program became woefully out of date. A tremendous effort to develop a new, more comprehensive program that would span a lifetime was undertaken. It was titled Our Whole Lives, or OWL. When Judy Tomlinson began as our Minister of Religious Education in 2000, she introduced OWL for both 8th and 9th graders. When elementary and then kindergarten first grade OWL were released, she trained volunteers and added these classes. Since 2005, we have offered 8th grade OWL every year and alternated the other two. Doing this, we have ensured that over 500 children can make values-based and informed decisions about their sexual health. That is nothing short of revolutionary. As the program offerings grew, Patty Dow became the first volunteer OWL coordinator. Carolyn Burr took the reins in 2015, followed by Jen Bell in 2018.
I am Jen Bell. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and now Beth Smith has joined me as co-coordinator. Over the years, more than 20 facilitators have volunteered their time, and we'd like to recognize them. If you are present in the sanctuary, please rise if you are able, and if you are joining us virtually, please introduce yourself as an OWL facilitator into the chat. I'd like to start with Carolyn Burr. May she rest in peace. Barbara Andrews, Doug Andrews, Peter Arian, Larissa Brooks, Jan Burdick, Sandra Chamberlain, Barry Sue Douglas, Patty Dow, Erica Gramp-Cerruti, Ted Hunter, Yvonne Croyton, Jason Luther, Arlene Marin, Ed Martoglio, Claudine Ohayan, Judith Rue, Judy Reinierson, Sarah Santora, Matt Silverman, Maria Tao, Lee Wilson, and Jill Wadnick. If I've missed anyone, please stand or say so in the chat. Thank you to all of you for your dedication.
I became a facilitator 15 years ago, it's sort of hard to believe, and have led classes most year ever since. My son Harrison participated. At the time, I can safely say it wasn't always where he wanted to be. But OWL provided a wonderful resource for him, and as a young adult, he fully embraces the importance of the program. He now is a member of Northeastern University's Club SHARE, Sexual Health Advocacy Resources and Education. He loves to share that his mother facilitates sexuality classes and has several times reached out for resources.
I was trained as a facilitator 8 years ago and have taught the kindergarten, first grade, fourth, fifth, and eighth grade courses over the years. It has been such a rewarding experience to work with the children and youth, and also to be a resource to parents and caregivers who are seeking information and support. I highly recommend becoming a facilitator for this important ministry. And we are now looking to train new facilitators in January for the 8th grade and 4th and 5th grade sessions we'll be offering this spring. And we absolutely need more facilitators to be able to offer these courses. So we're hoping we can get you to become a facilitator. And we're also accepting student registrations for our 8th grade OWL class starting in January. Please find our contact information on your This Week at UUCM, or connect with one of us after the service. Although I'm going to be going to teach 8th grade OWL right now, so you might not find me, so please find Beth. Thank you.
Ours is a covenantal community. When we come together, it is understood that while we may not necessarily share common beliefs, we do share a common covenant, a commitment to come together in service to the beloved community. Let's light our chalice as our chalice lighting affirmation is shared. Let us open our senses to take in the beauty. Let us open our minds to learn what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another.
Well, hello, everyone. It's great to be here. I am Reverend Scott Samler Michael, he, him, his, and I am joined today by members of this congregation's archives team, including Irene Sanderson and Jerry Freed. And this is today's time for all ages. Archive team, have you ever heard that story from Exodus in the Hebrew Scriptures, the one about Moses and the burning bush?
Well, our archival work doesn't go back that far.
Oh, okay.
But I do recall a story. Moses is working on freeing the Hebrew people from bondage in Egypt, and he comes across a burning bush.
Yep, that's the one. And then the bush tells him, take off your shoes, for you are standing on holy ground.
Take off your shoes. This is holy ground.
The place on which we're standing is holy ground. And this photo itself might combust into flames if you don't get those shoes off quick, Reverend Scott. This photo was taken in the Alliance Room, just back there. Here we have a trio of note and wonder. Polly Murray is there, a civil and women's rights activist and an author. Murray was the first African-American woman to be ordained as an Episcopal priest in the first year that any women were ordained by that church. Murray was also a lesbian and a gender nonconformist.
And next to her is Morris Milgram. And Morris Milgram was a lifelong crusader for social justice. In 1947, he joined his father-in-law's construction firm with the hopes of building affordable interracial communities throughout America. beginning in suburban Philadelphia. Morris Milgram was JFK's pick for developer of affordable housing, and also housing that's economically and socially diverse. And much of Milgram's work throughout his life entailed purchasing once all-white housing complexes and integrating.
Wow. And next to them is Norman Fletcher, beloved minister of this congregation from 1932 to 1972. He was so devoted to racial justice especially. Reverend Dr. Fletcher was the only white clergy signatory of the Essex County NAACP in 1933. He openly supported school integration, and he championed the election of Montclair's first black mayor. This is indeed holy ground.
Reverend Scott.
Yes. Oh.
Please.
Reverend Scott, please put your shoes back on.
Oh.
This is holy ground, but we must preserve the holy atmosphere.
If you're wondering why Reverend Scott is always the butt of the jokes in the Times for All Ages, it's because I write them. Called to find depth in our days and discover reverence in this hour, we seek a gentle meditation, a deep reflection, an ardent prayer, each as we are called, and yet somehow all together. And we enter into this space by hearing the lamentations, the requests, and the remembrances of our community. Let us hear one another to heal one another. We light this candle for Erica Scott, one of our Sunday morning tech team members. She is, or she was, in St. Barnabas Hospital with pneumonia. Her COVID test was negative. But please still pray for her full recovery. Steve and Ginny Crooks offer a candle of sorrow and remembrance for the sudden loss of two dear friends, as well as heartfelt support for those loved ones they leave behind. We light this candle for the passing of Gregory McWhite, the father of Chantal Pipkins and grandfather of today's liturgist, Kira Pipkins. Please keep the Pipkins family in your thoughts, and healing prayers, may they hold them in this tender time. And we light this final candle for the joys and the sorrows that are deeply felt but have not been spoken aloud. May we hold this silence as this silence holds us. God of our understanding, love that works wonders between and within us, help us to draw close today in this space of prayer to the ancestors, to those who lived hard lives well and with purpose. Yes, we need them when we are weak. Yes, we need them when we are weary. Those who brought us into the world, those that brought the world forward with their struggle, those who give us strength when we just remember their names, their hands, the way they bore the weight of the world on their shoulders. those who struggled for justice and suffered injustice, those who struggled for peace and suffered war, those who struggled for prosperity and suffered poverty. They have not melted into dust. They have not left on bitter winds. These, our ancestors, are with us still. Theirs are the hands that hold us steady amidst the present struggle of our days. May it be so. We carry them with us. We are the promise they worked for. May it be so. And we will be, holy, may it be so, we will be the ancestors that those who come after will call upon for their strength, for their certainty, when they need to hold on just a little while longer. Amen. And as we prepare for our prayer response, I see that we haven't had young people join us. So if there are those who wish to come closer because they prefer these seats up front, I welcome you to do that now. There's room for you.
"80% of what you offer will care for our congregation, and 20% will support our October and November recipient, Perinatal Equity Foundation. The Perinatal Health Equity Initiative eliminates health care disparities in Black infant and maternal health. Founded by Dr. Natasha Davis, this nonprofit empowers Black and brown women and their children in Essex County and New Jersey through advocacy, education, and research. You can text UUCM plate in your mount to 73256 to give. Mail us a check with Perinatal Equity Foundation in the memo, or simply place your gift in the offering basket. Ushers, please come forward. Gifts are worthy, and they are all received with love.
We get to do something now that's one of my favorite things to do in worship, which is welcome our newest members. As we call your names, we will welcome you to sign your name to our membership book, which is right down here. And please add just your name. We'll add all the rest later. We welcome Sylvia Cowan. Please come forward. And we welcome Maggie Wells. Please come forward. And our membership team will come up and help you sign and then ascend the chancel and join us up here.
Awesome. So Sylvia Cowan chosen to become a member, to covenant with others, and to work hand in hand to create a more just and joyous world. She hopes to experience beloved community here and camaraderie in service. And Maggie Wells has been looking forward to her move to Montclair to join this particular congregation. I didn't realize that we were a destination institution. How about that? She is seeking spiritual, you can pull up for that, right in. She's seeking spiritual renewal and community. So Sylvia and Maggie. All right, I'll wait for Sylvia to ascend to the chancel. Take a moment now to recall how you felt, what moved you when you felt so welcomed that you knew this could be your congregational home. And we ask you now to commit to ensure that others who come here receive that same generous welcome from you. And if you are willing to make this commitment, we ask you to say, I will. Thanks. So you, our newest members, have chosen to call this congregation home. This congregation. Hoping to teach the children a liberating faith education. Since then, it has been sustained and transformed, just like you.
New members.
New members. Thus, to relate one to another in accord with our 8 Unitarian Universalist principles, which call us to honor one another's inherent worth and dignity, which call us to uphold the free search for truth and meaning, which promote the web that is made resilient through our interdependence, and which call us to accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. We, by our membership, make this covenantal promise one to another. Will you join us? If so, please say, we will.
We will. We will covenant with you to relate one to another in accord with our 8 Unitarian Universalist principles, and we will work with you to serve the mission of our congregation.
Grounded in faith, we come together to nurture the soul, inspire hope, and bring into being a more just and loving world. So may it be, and amen. Please join us now in celebrating these new members. We welcome you to rise in body or spirit, praising and honoring the covenant that holds us as a people of faith. I hope you will find these new members after the service, introduce yourself, and welcome them as members of our congregation. And as they return to their seats, they're being given gifts by our membership team and some beautiful flowers. We are so glad to share membership with you.
The song we're about to hear comes from the musical Ragtime, which is set in the northeastern United States in the early 20th century. And this song is sung by the character named Coalhouse Walker Jr., a professional and very successful musician from Harlem, who is African American, and who, through encountering violent racism over the course of the story, becomes galvanized to develop into a political activist. And so this song, Make Them Hear You, is a rallying cry for the African American community. And it will be sung today by our own member, Glenn Rombo, and we offer it as a liberation anthem for oppressed and marginalized people everywhere.
Let it echo far and wide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. How justice was our battle and how justice was denied. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles that are more than black and white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. Go out and tell the story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear then my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you
Not ungood. That was amazing. Goodness gracious, how am I supposed to follow that? I appreciate the bar being set so high, is what I meant to say. Thank you so much. Well, as always, it is a great pleasure to be invited to preach to this amazing congregation. And one of the things that I am fond of doing is case studies, and that's what we're doing today. One of the biggest mistakes that we can make is assuming that time heals history, that social improvement and cultural evolution are on some kind of autopilot going onward and upward forever. Nothing could be farther from the truth. You and I and the institutions we engage bend the arc of history together. Social justice comes only through organized, sustained moral effort, using public witness and community pressure and personal power and revelation and networking. Our sweat is the oil that helps the arc of the moral universe bend more toward justice. And to demonstrate this, we focus on Pauli Murray, who we first met in today's Time for All Ages. Pauli Murray, black, queer, gender non-binary. Murray was a poet, an activist, a lawyer, a priest, a great friend, a lesbian, so many things. Despite her gender fluidity, most of her life, Pauli Murray referred to herself as a woman, so I will do the same today. When you learn of all that Pauli embodied, you will be surprised, if not a little upset, that you haven't heard much about her before. Anna Pauline Murray, who went by Pauli, was born in Baltimore in 1910. Her mother died when Pauli was just 3 years old. And Pauli's father soon collapsed into deep mental despair, so Pauli went to live with family in Durham, North Carolina. Now, that family, the Fitzgeralds, they were of mixed race, African, Cherokee, Irish. They were prominent citizens in Durham's black community. And Pauli was raised mostly by her Aunt Pauline, after whom she was named. Aunt Pauline was a school teacher who always took Pauli to school with her as soon as Pauli came to live with her. And by age 4, just 1 year later, Pauli showed her aunt that she could read. From a young age, Pauli did not like to wear dresses. Aunt Pauline made a deal with her. Pauli could wear what she liked during the week, but on Sunday to church, she had to wear a dress. It was still North Carolina. Aunt Pauline called her niece my boy girl. She was always supportive of Pauli's genuine spirit. Imagine such support for someone so unconventional 100 years ago. Aunt Pauline helped make history. We bend the arc of history together. Yearning for an integrated, challenging academic experience, Polly enrolled at New York's Hunter College. She entered Hunter in 1928 as one of only 4 black women. Murray excelled, graduating in 1933, just as the Great Depression was in full swing. Unable to find work after graduation, Murray took to the rails. She joined the nearly 300,000 people during the Depression, mostly men, who traveled the freight trains from town to town looking for work. Because of Polly's slight build and short haircut, Murray easily passed as male and reveled in being perceived as such at that age. There are great pictures of her from that time where she calls herself Pete or the Dude. Yes. I knew that would get a laugh. For Murray to live openly as someone comfortable floating between genders was a real joy. In 1934, Murray entered Camp Terra, a New Deal-era work camp for women in Bear Mountain Park in New York. And it was there that Murray met her first love, Peggy Holmes, a banker's daughter radicalized by the Depression. They became activists, labor organizers. When they split up, Polly became lonely and depressed. For relief, Murray sought all kinds of doctors' advice, and she learned about hormone therapy in hopes of relieving her misery, but no doctor would administer the treatment in the 30s. Due to society's open hostility to homosexuality at the time, Murray feared she would never have a satisfactory romantic relationship. She began seeing more doctors to help figure out why she was so uncomfortable in her own body. And one doctor wrote about her, "She seems to be an experiment of nature for whom society has yet to make a place." In 1938, Murray created her first headline as a public figure. She tried unsuccessfully to integrate the University of North Carolina. UNC would not integrate until 1951. The 1938 denial of Murray's admission on the basis of race became national news.
We bend the arc of history together.
Days after Polly was denied admission, Franklin Roosevelt visited UNC, praising it as some bastion of liberal thought. And Polly Murray quickly wrote FDR.
You say you support American liberal democracy. What does this mean to America's Negroes?
This began what Murray called confrontation by typewriter. FDR did not reply, but Murray was wise enough to send a copy to the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt. And Eleanor Roosevelt replied, inviting Murray into relationship, affirming her rights, but urging Murray to not move so fast. This began a lifelong friendship between the two. Murray eventually considered Eleanor Roosevelt a surrogate mother. In 1940, 15 years before Rosa Parks, Polly Murray was arrested for refusing to move to the back of a Greyhound bus in Petersburg, Virginia. We bend the arc of history together. In 1940, black Americans traveling south were required to segregate once they crossed the Mason-Dixon line. And Murray wrote of that episode,
"The intimacy of the bus interior provided a space for our privileged white spectators to witness our shame in silence."
The case made national news. But the NAACP was unable to secure a victory in court. A frustrated Murray realized she needed a different set of tools to further the work of liberation, and so she enrolled in law school. And Pauli Murray enters Howard University Law School in 1941, and she is the only woman. There is a pattern here, by the way. Delighted to be at a preeminent black university, Murray soon gets frustrated.
My first year, they wouldn't let me talk. The professors refused to call on me.
Murray called that discrimination Jane Crow. There were no limitations, you see, placed on the women in Murray's family, and she wasn't about to abide it at Howard University. At the end of the year, Murray made history again, becoming the first Howard woman ever to rank #1 in every class. In her second year, they let Pauli talk. She also gets elected student advisor to the NAACP. In 1943, 17 years before the sit-ins at Woolworth lunch counters, Murray organizes an action demanding that black folks be served in D.C.'s Little Palace cafeteria. Using tactics of nonviolent resistance that King would use 12 years later, Murray's team demands to be served. And when denied, they quietly sit down and begin to study, filling up the whole place. The luncheonette in a black neighborhood near Howard decided to end its segregation as a result. And Murray's team helps desegregate all of U Street in Washington, D.C., which is still a hub of proud black businesses like Ben's Chili Bowl. You have to go there if you go to D.C., best hot dogs in Washington. Then in 1944, Murray writes a senior law paper where she argues how to overturn Plessy versus Ferguson, the 1896 Supreme Court decision that legalized segregation. Scholars had tried for years to undo Plessy's ruling of separate but equal. They usually focused on the equal part of that phrase. Murray's insight attacked the notion of separate.
Separate is a delusion. It is morally repugnant. It does violence to the personality of the individual separated.
Her Howard classmates laughed at her when she presented her paper. Murray, no surprise, stayed strong. One faculty member, Spotswood Robinson, accepted Murray's bet of $10 that Plessy would be overturned in 25 years. And we know it was overturned in 10 years. You see, Robinson became part of Thurgood Marshall's legal team in 1954 that won the Brown decision, overturning Plessy, outlawing segregation. And surprise, surprise, the team used Murray's argument from that very paper that was laughed at in 1944. In 1954, Murray was given no credit for her argument. Indeed, all the NAACP lawyers in those old photos are men. It wasn't until 1960 that Spotswood Robinson shared with Murray that in 1953, I showed your paper to the team, and we realized that was our best argument. Indeed, the court proclaimed Murray's central thesis, which reasoned,
separate is inherently unequal.
Pauli Murray. Pauli Murray, a queer, gender, non-binary black student, had provided the winning argument for the most important Supreme Court case, perhaps of all time. It is difficult to imagine our culture, our legal, social, community landscape without Pauli Murray's contributions. The moral arc of the universe only bends when we put our backs into bending it together. Murray graduated #1 in her class. Howard's #1 class ranking included a fellowship to study at Harvard Law. But because Murray presented as female, she was denied that honor. Her confrontation by typewriter to Harvard Law School president included this.
Gentlemen, I would gladly change my sex to meet your requirements, But since the way to such change has not been revealed to me, I have no recourse but to appeal to you to change your minds on the subject. Are you to tell me that one is as difficult as the other?
Hey, we're only in 1944, y'all. Right? So Murray studied instead at Berkeley and then tried to make a living as a lawyer. But too many prejudices proved too tough to overcome for her to make law a career.
The business of oppression is the business of not respecting one's personhood. What does it mean to have a diminished sense of one's worth and dignity?
In 1959, Poplarville, Mississippi, Mac Carter was lynched by a large white mob that included police officers. Mac Carter's lynching inspired Murray not just to leave the United States for a spell, but to write this poem.
To the oppressors. Now you are strong, and we are but grapes aching with ripeness. Crush us. Squeeze from us all the brave life contained in these full skins. But ours is a subtle strength, potent with centuries of yearning, it being kegged and shut away in dark, forgotten places. We shall endure to steal your senses in that lonely twilight of your winter's grief.
Murray did not stop bending the arc of history there. Among other triumphs, Murray joined with Betty Friedan in 1966 to form NOW, the National Organization of Women. And as their legal advisor, she writes,
The courts have not yet realized that women's rights are part of human rights, but they are, and the 14th Amendment shows us why.
And Murray begins to show the preacher in her and famously preaches to the NOW members to be proud, saying,
The stars are your beacons, the earth your inheritance. Surrender to none the fire of your soul.
She goes on to author Jane Crow and the Law, detailing lasting legal arguments for women's equality. Pauley writes a letter in the late 60s urging the all-male ACLU board to invite as a member Ruth Bader Ginsburg, whom she met while teaching at Yale, and they agree. And when Ginsburg wins Supreme Court cases for women's rights, she cites Murray and invites her to the celebrations. You can applaud that. Pauli Murray composed, among other things, one of the most groundbreaking insights about human truth of the 20th century. That the categories of race and gender are mostly arbitrary and thereby not a legal basis for discrimination. We now know through science that race has no biological reality and that race and gender are social constructs. This is why social theories of whiteness must be decentered, supremacy dismantled, because their only effect is violence, segregation, moral monstrosity, and a social order that can never bring equality. Eventually realizing that her struggles had all along been moral ones. At age 65, Murray hears the call, and at age 67, she becomes the first black woman to be ordained a priest in the Episcopal Church. Indeed, she realized that she had embodied truths enshrined in the social gospel, declaring that the greatest sins are not personal, but social. The greatest sins are those that cause the damage to the greatest number of people. and those sins thereby require a social remedy. Time and again, Murray transformed her private hell into public healing, showing us that social salvation is always greater than personal comfort, always improving herself so she could improve the world.
We bend the arc of history together.
Pauli Murray was gender non-binary before that term was ever conceived. And in 1968, our own Reverend Dr. Norman Fletcher made history by inviting Murray to speak here. Now I bet if Fletcher had surveyed the congregation to see if they supported bringing a liberationist, black, lesbian, gender nonconformist, I'm not sure the survey results would have suggested they were ready for the gift. But Fletcher, because he was full of moral leadership and courage, he didn't ask. Dr. Fletcher knew Murray was one of America's most important voices for freedom and justice, and he knew our congregation needed to hear, learn, and embrace her message. Every day I pray Reverend Anya and I have some inkling of that moral courage. This congregation has a history of such moral courage, most recently in our near unanimous congregational vote to adopt the 8th principle, aiming to live into that deeper truth even when we don't have any idea what the details of that transformation might look and feel like. That means that in every group here, part of our holy work is to accountably dismantle racism and other intersecting oppressions. It means we will hold one another accountable to that work and that commitment, and it means that those who resist these goals are unfit for leadership and will not be invited into it. This is how we bend the arc of history together. Good leaders, moral courage, training, accountability, clear vision, transparency, great programming, all serving a worthy mission. Grounded in faith, we come together to nurture the soul, inspire hope, and bring into being a more just and loving world. And so today we sing of the brave of old. One day, our posterity will sing of the brave of now. So let us continue to be part. What's that? I'm pretty sure you're going to be in that song, young lady. And may you all find a way to be in that song, that brave solution, because beloved community requires us to toil to midwife justice into being. So let us strive to be more like Pauli Murray, indomitable, fearless, transforming our personal trials into social justice so beauty, truth, justice, and compassion are valued, protected, proclaimed, and amplified. Amen and blessed be. Will you reflect with me? How will we compose together a history of greater truth, beauty, justice, and compassion? so with great thanks to the tech crew for a very difficult service, lots of moving parts, thank you very much. And with great esteem for our archives team, without whom this service would never come about. I would never have preached all that if I hadn't seen a picture of those three people together here. So thank you, and if you want to know more about archives, this Wednesday at 7 o'clock, there's going to be a Zoom presentation and conversation with some of the old-timers who no longer live around here to teach us even more about our own story that we may not yet know. Kira?
The stars are your beacons, the earth your inheritance. Surrender to none the fire of your soul.
Pauli Murray's visit here is believed to have gone by the title of her only book of poetry, Dark Testament. So I will end my remarks with lines from that poem. I was an Israelite walking a sea bottom. I was a Negro slave following the North Star. I was an immigrant huddled in a ship's belly. I was a refugee clogging roads to nowhere. Always the dream was the same. Always the dream was freedom. And let us extinguish our chalice.
Connection Cafe through these doors. We're going to gather in Fletcher Hall, and we'll be glad to greet you. Anyone in today's service, come on here, and we'll greet the folks as they pass on by.